Welcome back to another episode, finally, of the Drum Technique podcast, where we're going to talk about double bass drumming techniques, hand techniques, especially for metal drummers and extreme metal drummers. And today, my guests are Mr. John Longstreth, living
Hello.
legend, and Mr. Simon Schilling, the Bloodhammer. Both of them are currently on tour, visiting my beautiful hometown of Vienna. Let's do this, guys. And by the way, we're also going to have some barbecue as well.
Potato salad?
Yeah, potato. This one is just for you.
I eat a whole bottle.
And
I can eat a whole thing of potato salad.
yeah, I'm going to spend some time at the barbecue grill and I'm going to ask them some questions. And the first question today is about pedals. Bass drum pedals. We all love double bass drumming. And recently, Pearl released its new Pearl Demon XR pedals.
Yeah.
And John was one of the first ones to also test those. And so please, John, give us your thought on the pedals, your experiences so far.
Well, like, it's a wonderful pedal. It's simple. It's really simple. So it automatically, like, when I first got the pedal and I was asking him about it, and what about this and that and this and that, and, you know, George is involved, so it's really kind of almost a cross between the George Axis pedal and the Demon Drive. So, but it doesn't break. It doesn't come out of adjustment. It's as fast as, well, nothing's really as fast as an Axis, but you know it is.
That's a good question. Did you lose some speed? No.
No, I mean,
so as fast, yeah.
I've already used most of the bass drum pedals out there. That's kind of, you know, everybody has such a, oh, here we go again. Everybody has such a awesome product, but I think it was a very polarizing pedal when it first came out because it doesn't have a dozen adjustment points on it. But it's kind of like, what do you need out of your bass drum pedals? So I think people that need to spend a lot of time adjusting and really need to craft a pedal to whatever, you know, they probably won't be into it. But I think for someone like me, my particular case is I was breaking a lot of pedals where all these extra adjustments were at. And I was also kind of finding myself going down a wormhole of just adjustments and second guessing my technique. And I would have a bad day at rehearsal and I couldn't make it work, so I would, you know, spending 20 minutes in adjusting the thing. But that's me. Not everybody does this, so that may not be a problem. But the most important thing for me was that the pedal is set, it doesn't come out of adjustment, and it doesn't break. And that is the thing that I think 2021, 2022 me enjoys a lot more than 2006 me would. Because in 2006 it was about heel block razors and like custom made toe stops, and where do you get this? A friend of mine had a spring from a safe on his pedals, and it was a different game back then. And nowadays I just don't want to mess with the thing. I want to set it up, and like once a week I check the bolts on it. And I think one bolt has moved a little bit. Other than that, you know, and that's it. It's a wonderful pedal.
One thing that I wanted to ask you is, you know, many of my students in our double bass drumming coaching program, they bought the new Pearl Demon XR pedal, and they struggle with those mid tempos even more because the pedal is so fast. So basically, the feedback that I've gotten so far is actually they are a bit faster now, switching from regular pedal, whatever the brand is, direct drive pedal, to the Pearl Demon XR.
Probably the spring, because the spring is so heavy duty.
Yeah, it's a strong one.
It's a heavy spring and it's a high footboard. So
That's
yeah, it is. But like the craziest thing about it is that Pearl Drums made a purpose-built death metal bass drum pedal.
Yeah.
I know there's guys out there that say it can do anything, and I guess it can. That's more the drummer. But yeah, it is out of the box. If you take it out of the box and tighten the spring a bit, I know a few guys that have just like, wait a minute, I don't have to sit here and adjust the damn thing I don't have to get used to it for a handful. You got to get used to it, but he didn't have to adjust it a bunch. But yeah, that's having it be difficult at mid-tempo. I mean, we all know that really involves, you know, knowing how your body works and how to sit at certain tempos, where to put your feet. Where to put your feet on the pedals during certain tempos, and all that kind of stuff. you know, it does make you practice more.
Okay.
Like it definitely cuts out an illusion of customizing your pedal to getting this much double bass gain, I guess, out of, you know, you have to sit there and listen to your body, and you have to work on your technique, and you have to look at how you're sitting, your posture, and all this kind of stuff, and the pedal doesn't lie.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about the pedal, because it's more simpler. You not like lose yourself in like adjustments. You just focus on the main thing, and that's practice, you know. And that's I think that's a good thing, and I think that's exactly what George wanted to say with the pedal also, in a way. What I heard from interviews he
Absolutely,
gave.
yeah.
So
And it does, like I said, it does what I needed to do, and that's not break 15 shows into a 30 show tour, you know. And I think there's a lot of pedals that have come out over the past 20 years that have really like pushed. I mean, because, you know, when we started, it was like there was 3 pedals, I guess. There was the DW 5000, there was the Iron Cobra, and then Axis came out. And when the Axis pedals came out, and I was in Kansas, and everybody was just looking at, you know, Dave Lombardo.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, Dave Lombardo isn't going to play on that. I'm like, no, but Pete Sandoval is.
Yeah.
Who's Pete Sandoval? You know, I'm like, well, you know. And sure enough, oh, that's not real. That's not real. That guy's not really playing that. And, you know, you could say that back then because nobody had the footage.
Yeah.
And so the Axis pedals came out, and people were just, what is that? And they didn't like them. And nobody understood, really got the concept of putting in 20% of the effort and getting the pedal to do, you know, the rest of the work, as to where you're used to just full running on your pedals, and just what you put in, you didn't really get much return out of it.
Got it. Simon, to you. You've been playing Axis for how long? Like 10 years, longer than that?
I'm indoors since 2015, but I played them like, I don't know, let's say another 5 years. So almost like
Got it.
14, 15 years, yeah.
Okay. One question that's interesting for me and also for my audience, I'm sure. When it comes to longboards versus shortboards, I know that at one point you also used shortboards. What's the difference for you when it comes to feel, speed, technique, and so on?
It's hard for me to tell. I like them both. I just switched like recently again at home, and
Really?
yeah, I like the shortboard is a bit more. It's easier to play a bit like more groovy, more slower stuff. The shortboard gives you a bit more boost.
Yeah.
If it comes to like quicker stuff, I think. But also since my heel toe technique is like my foot is completely on the board,
Yeah.
so the longboard serves me better in this case.
Got it.
Because like you know, drummers which use the heel block as like a pivot point.
Yeah.
When I started with the heel toe, I kind of found actually the shortboard better, because I was still like experimenting with the kind of footboard position. But since I now figured like I put my whole feet on the pedal, it's better with the longboard.
Got it. Got it. Since you just mentioned your foot technique, let's talk a bit about technique. But at first, John, I want to talk about your technique that you used back in the days. So when I first saw John, it was a YouTube video you playing for Dying Fetus, and you used some kind of crazy, you were sitting extremely high, far away from your pedals. It looked like heel down in combination with a full leg motion.
It
What
was.
was that? Yeah,
It
okay,
was
please.
exactly that. And this is like, I mean, what people don't really think about is how important that invention was, the longboard.
Yeah.
That Daryl Johnston did for the Axis pedals. I think Drum Workshop had what they called a split board or an unsplit board, you know, going back, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, to just to comment on the Axis thing for a second again. Yeah, when I went and met Daryl in 2002, and we started talking about all this kind of stuff, and he was talking about the reason for the longboard, and he wanted to be able to do, he was a Latin jazz drummer, and he wanted to be able to do light heel strokes. So it's like he developed the pedal for exactly what a lot of guys are using it for today, and it's just funny like that. But what I was doing was, yeah, I was kind of, it was full foot heel down motion. I got this from George Fluke, who was the original Origin drummer, and he talked about somebody that did, yeah, right, this is how far, yeah, so-and-so plays heel down double bass, and it's the most consistent I've ever seen. And so I just kind of started messing with it one day, and boom, all of a sudden it worked. What happened?
So which tempos?
Oh, it
by the
was,
way?
it was a 2000,
No, which
it was
BPMs?
2000, before the great BPM wars really started happening, so it was 200 BPM, 210 BPM.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it was, you know, just, it was in here, and what I noticed was that it took all of the balance out. It took, there was none of this kind of stuff, and I created, you create a tripod, because you're sitting, and you got your heel down and your heel down, and what I started doing is I turned my drum throne, I still have it this way, and I was kicking against my heels and actually leaning the drum throne back a bit,
Yeah.
and which was stretching my legs out, so I was getting this constant down pressure, and all I was doing was lifting, and that's what you were seeing. I could not have the toms mounted on the kick drums. I had to have the toms and the snare, so I had this weird tom snare thing, and the kicks were out here. I remember Derek is just like, "What are you doing? Well, that's crazy." You know,
Yeah.
He was, "You're all fucked up." And it's like, but I was like, "It works though," and he's like, "I guess." And like, but that's kind of what it was, really. And the problem is my guitar player Paul just kept getting faster and faster and faster, and I think I was topping out at 220, 225 BPM.
Sorry,
His picking hand was going from here to coming out here, and he was starting to do this Eddie Van Halen thing, and he was just getting faster, and just by accident, I plop plop,
And
you know, combining that with the Joe Stronzik ballistic double bass VHS tapes,
yeah.
and a couple of the dudes on the Roddy forum were talking about it, and I just kind of fell into it, and it worked. But yeah, that was exactly. It was this. It was lift
have
and
some videos from back then?
they took the fight. I think they took the fetus videos off YouTube.
Okay.
There's footage out there. You
I'd
gotta
love to show it to everyone watching.
you gotta look at the old skinless videos. If there was that one fetus video that was shot from the side, you could really see what was happening.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I can't find it anymore. I think the skinless videos are still up there, and I think there's probably some old Origin footage from 2002, maybe.
That would work as well.
But yeah, I fell into that technique between 2000 and 2000. The last time I used that was on the final Angel Corpse record of Lucifer and Lightning. But like I said, by the time I got up to 230 BPM, it was so much pressure on the thigh, on the top of the thigh, and it was starting to get into the knee, and it was really, really, really working the shin a lot. So it was just becoming a really forced muscle. You know,
Got it.
there was no butterfly to it.
No. Okay. Then you switched to doubles,
Yeah.
and you found out about doubles basically.
Well, I think at first I was doing dribbles.
Did this, yeah? What?
Dribbles.
So that means?
It means closed stroke. It means.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of what I was. But the problem was that I think that worked for the album. And then once we got out on the road, and it just wasn't working because the trigger module had to be DM5. You know, it had to be run full open. So just breathing on the snare drum was triggering the kicks. And so I did one tour like that, and then eventually went home and started working on the dribbles at like slower BPM. I think Steely Dan, Black Cow. You know, the first song on Asia, it's like 7 minutes of like 110 BPM. And I just really tried to get that working and really tried to get the second Pantera, Psycho Holiday. Worked on a lot of shuffles and just worked on cleaning up and strengthening that second note to get an actual double stroke out of it. So,
Got it.
from dribbles to doubles.
Thank you, guys. Go ahead, start, and I'm gonna continue with my next question. Interesting topic, and while you start to eat, I'm gonna talk a bit about that. Eloy Casagrande is the new drummer for Slipknot. Big topic, like this past week or so. I think it was like the first video, the first show, the small show was like about 7 days ago. And actually, that was really interesting. Interesting choice, of course, and great choice, but also the discussions I've seen online, because one thing that has switched within 1 week, that was really interesting. About like maybe 1 month ago, everyone hated on Slipknot for this decision.
I thought exact the same thing. It was so ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, now you're... And Jay did a great job, by the way, honoring what Joey created. So that's just my personal opinion right now. And I think he did a great job. But when they let Jay go and decided to move on with someone else, of course, how they did it, that's a different kind of story. I think it was just a phone call, and
Yeah, but no one knows exactly.
I wasn't there, so
yeah,
that's
exactly.
all I heard
Exactly.
about. I think it was he posted that he got the phone call that he's no longer with Slipknot, and suddenly everyone started to hate on them. The band is dead. All the original, like only a couple of guys are left. It's not the same band anymore. Yeah, it's not the same band, of course. That is correct, and it's over. And now, first show, bad quality live videos, and everyone is talking about how Slipknot is finally back. Perfect decision, and couldn't have done any better. And yeah, I think he's a great fit as well. Again, my personal opinion. But it's really interesting how quickly all of that changed from hating them as much as possible past couple of months to, okay, that was like the perfect move. The band is back. Finally, the Iowa vibe is back. They are brutal again. And of course, this is not about what's right or what's wrong, this discussion, but first of all, we would like to congratulate Eloy to this great gig, but also share your opinion, your thoughts, maybe also the different styles, Eloy and Jay and Joey, of course.
I just think this whole thing sums up the whole social media society. Like just what you said, like one day this, the next day is this opinion, and it's like such a witch hunt all the time. Like, yeah, I don't like it. It's just like, it's just not my cup of tea to this behavior. But you know, like you said, I'm really happy for Eloy. He got I think he got a really good gig, and I watched some footage like from first row. Someone was filming it, and it sounded so brutal. You know, like you could really tell, like you can hear the drums without the microphones from the phone sound. It was like it's such a massive force behind the drum kit. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah. One thing that I find really interesting right now is when it comes to metal drumming, it's not like the metal drumming community is divided, but there are like two ways of metal drumming right now. The one is the really delicate playing, lots of finger control with the hands, fine-tuned technique to go really, really fast. And someone like Eloy, of course, 280 BPM is out of the question with his technique. That's the other part. And other drummers are going in this direction. Actually, some of them are not using triggers anymore, hitting as hard as possible. And of course, like if you play for Origin or Marduk and the song is like a 250, 260, yes, you can do the count in hitting that hard, but a blast beat for a minute straight, everyone's gonna not gonna die, but you're gonna like drop off and just have to stop in between. So I think that's really interesting, and Eloy is like the perfect example for how far you can push this.
But I also think there's a bit of there's two ways of hitting hard. You can either use like your full arm, or you can use like a lot of whip motion from your wrist. You know, there's still ways to hit a blast beat in a hard way.
That's true.
So I'm not saying this or this is the right way to do it, but I just think you still can play even when you play fast, like with a lot of power. That's my aim. I always try to like bring a bit of power to the blast beats and to the tom fills and everything.
What I would say to that is nowadays, since social media and YouTube is so big, it's also about the visual aspect. So even if you're not hitting as hard, I don't know if you notice, there's this one guy, there's a power metal drummer that always lifts his hands like this. Have you seen him? He's playing like that. Don't know the name of the guy. Maybe we will add him to the video as well. And if you just focus on showmanship, then someone like Elo, who's like really leaning into the drums, like hitting it, like every backbeat is a rim shot and really hitting as hard as possible. The same goes for Niels Fjellström. who's like leaning. He's playing like this, like with this kind of angle, leaning in and really like trying to push as much as possible. Yes, he's playing really fast, but with the blast beats, you have to go down with the volume. But when it comes to showmanship, I think if you want the big social media attention, then showmanship back in the days, like 10 years ago, it was if you could play fast and you're like one of 20 people on this planet can do that. Right now, many drummers can do that, and the ones that shine, like Eloy, also have the kind of showmanship, and it's not like that he's twirling his sticks all the time, but he's looking like he's hitting really hard.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
oh, thank you, John.
I did not mean to take the entire
Thank
chunk.
you. That's fine. Oh, thank you. But yeah, John, your thoughts?
I think Eloy's a fantastic drummer, and I've been watching Eloy since that video where he was a little kid,
Yes.
and then I watched him live in Mexico, and I was like, oh my god! And like, I think he's phenomenal. Like, it's not that he even hits that hard; it's that is his constant. You know, he is up at that velocity. And a friend of mine was doing sound for Sepultura for a bit, and he was just like, I don't even put the snare drum in the PA if they're in a small venue. Like, the snare drum wouldn't even go in the PA a lot of times. And it was a sick drummer video where he's just like, he's hitting, and he's probably my height, maybe a little bit shorter, but we're built similarly, as in we got shorter limbs. He's obviously a lot in better shape than me, but he's coming up from here and he's rim shotting down, and the snare drum is just going, you know. On the Slipknot thing, you know, I'm not going to watch him as much. You know, I don't care about Slipknot. It's like I've never. I remember when they first came on and they played this tiny little club in KC, and that was really cool. And the connection there was that a couple of dudes were in Anal Blast from Minneapolis, so there was like a little death metal connection that kind of was there for a split second, and then they exploded. And I just, you know, it's not my sound. It's not my kind of metal. So I haven't seen the footage. I know it's there, and and I see how they got the old costumes on again, and they're kind of doing that, you know. But like all the coverage, and you know, all these armchair metal critics that just know everything and nothing at the same time, and they've all got an opinion.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
awesome.
look, it's look, it's Eloy Casagrande's signature drumstick on the floor, broken, that the vocalist posted a picture of, giving away and for like 3 months, it's like, who's the Slipknot drummer? It's either going to be him or Ellis Tapario, or it's going to be Jeremy Kling, which was so hysterical because I'm really good friends with Jeremy, and oh my god, just having those conversations with him was funny as fuck. But I don't care, really. I'm not going to watch him as much. I'm going to defer back to the Sepultura videos. I think his playing in Sepultura was wonderful, and he's going to be in Slipknot, and Sepultura is going to probably come back in 5 years with the original lineup. Oops.
Yeah.
But
That one is
I don't know. You know, the guys that, you know, there was a video of mine went up there and recently that Raphael from Drummers from Hell put up, and there's just a couple of people in there that are still doing the triggers thing. They're still mad at triggers, and so when you talk about the blast beat has to come down when you get up to these tempos that we're at, yeah, well, everything has to come down. And like, the approach for me is listen to your sound man. And not listen to your sound man, but pick at your sound man. Be like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? And your sound man will be like, well, you need your snare drum tuned up. You need it dead. Don't hit your china so hard if you're going to have them up that high. You got mega bell rides. Don't hit them from over your head, you know. Your chinas are at this dB level, and your chinas are competing with the guitars. I can't make the guitars louder because it's going to hurt the people in the front row. And so then you get down to your rim shots, and then you get down to your grooves versus your blast beats. So you can't crack, 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 and then, you know, because not only are people on the internet going to chew you up, you know, because they should, because you're, you know, and then people tear you up, and they're right for it. But so like my playing is almost upside down. So like I'm pushing as much as I can into my blast beats and my tom fills. And then when the 2 or 3 backbeats appear in the origin set, I have to,
We count it.
literally have to come down and just kind of, you know, and I can get a rim shot out of it, but it has to be like the lightest rim shot, and it still gets that kind of thunk, that sort of Alex Van Halen thunk out of the snare drum, which means the guy at front of house doesn't have to compress, and ride the faders. Hopefully he just has a little bit of compression, and he doesn't, like, I see my sound guy in the States when I hit too hard, and he'll look up. And I know he's going to come after me after the show and just tear me a new one about it. So, yeah, about having really polished technique versus hitting like a caveman, there's always a place in the middle. And, you know, this is what a lot of the, you know, again, the armchair critics don't quite get, is they don't know what goes into getting this music to transfer live. It's being in the studio, it's a nightmare. Being live, it's a fucking nightmare. But if you really get into the science of it and get nerdy, there's a lot of really fascinating shit that goes into this kind of stuff. A lot of people don't get that, and that's okay too. You know, that's, I don't know.
But you know, when I grew up, people told me, if you don't know about anything, shut up. You know, if you don't have any clue, shut up.
You got anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Exactly. So, but people tend to forget it nowadays.
Can happen, but if you focus on yourself and what you're doing, and just compare yourself to yourself yesterday, you'll be fine. And yeah, or like another approach that I really like personally is when it comes to the armchair critics, like the haters online, is just try to become so big that basically their existence in the comment section doesn't matter anymore. And that's the approach that I really like. And if you are Eloy, for example, or if you are Slipknot, that's just the way it is. And since you mentioned another drummer, El Estepario Siberiano, one thing that's genius about him is that, and I thought about this a lot actually, and he's the reason why I switched to the Yamaha EAD10 to record my drum videos. So I don't have a fully mic'd setup. We just have those 2 small microphones in there. And I'm using, you can mount it at the bass drum, but I got it on top. And with that, you yourself are responsible to like take care of the dynamics. Of course, if you're using a trigger like me, bass drum doesn't really matter as much, but the rest of the kit, you have to take care of the dynamics yourself. Otherwise, your videos will sound bad and the audio will sound bad. And this way, basically, you have to make sure that you're sounding good and well balanced. Otherwise, your videos, especially in today's comparison, when everyone is using an electronic kit nowadays for their videos, to just be able to keep up with that, you have to have this kind of dynamic control. It makes it more difficult at first, but for El Estepario now, and that's the genius, if you watch his older videos, when he started to post videos almost daily, the first ones were not like, okay, this is super outstanding, no one has done this before, but it was a journey. He was good in the beginning and he got even better. And nowadays, when he's recording a video still with the Yamaha EAD10, all he has to do is turn on one camera, start recording the audio, and he starts to perform. And of course, he said this himself, is recording many takes. But if you compare this to other drummers out there that have this huge setup, and they have to, and they know my kicks are not tight, I have to edit them. With this kind of approach, you will not be able to pump out videos with this frequency that you need to be successful on social media nowadays. If you want to play that game. If you're not interested in that, then that's fine. But if you want to compete, then nowadays, that's funny. With El Estepario, you have to be good again, because otherwise you will just be able to release like 1 video per week and so on. And I really like that about him, actually. So I'm also happy for his success.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I really wish he didn't bring back the duelist pedal.
But
I think he is a
fantastic drummer. Sorry, I have an opinion about that one. The duelist
died 20 years ago.
Yeah, but the cool thing is now his clip is out there with the duel. He's playing at 300 something. And just imagine, we had this drummer, Riccardo Merlini, with this hand speed, and suddenly he's able to play at 340 or 360 BPM single strokes, and with just this up and down motion. And what if someone would be able to replicate that and post a response video to El Estepario playing single strokes on a regular pedal? If you do that, you're the king, and I'm gonna invite you to have barbecue with me right here, just like these two fine gentlemen who pushed the boundaries of metal drumming for years now.
The social media thing's a little strange because there's a lot of these guys out there, but the only thing I really question is, and this is an old guy, kind of old guy barking at clouds bit.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's a. Who is that? Who picked that up from? But anyway, it's like, does it work live? You know, there's so many. This social media thing, I just don't feel made for it. I posted a bunch of stuff on Instagram, a bunch of like videos, and it's just like old dork playing blast beats in a room, and that's all it's gonna be with me. I guess there'll be more educational stuff coming in the future, but I just feel that's not my game. I got into this to play blast beats on the road and sell records, and like then the record industry went away, and now it's the internet thing, and I just not gonna beat up on it that much, but I just feel really fucking naked doing that stuff. I feel really weird. There's guys that are just, there's people that are hammering the crap out of that, and it's really awesome, and then there's a lot of motherfuckers that shouldn't be teaching. But there's, I don't know.
Are you pointing at me?
No, not at all. You were.
I'm just joking.
No, I've been following you for a long time, and you know, as I was saying in the car, is like I'm now playing heels up single strokes because of your thing. So
Thank you.
let me self-correct that in public.
In my home.
In his home,
I live
eating
here.
his food, his wonderful food, and there's just a lot of bad out there. Yeah, I don't know. The older I get, the less I want to look at the internet because it's just armchair critics and bad politics and people eating noodles while crying. No.
But I feel the same way as you. Like, I'm not feeling at home if it comes to posting stuff. You know, I do it from time to time, but I feel home on stage. I feel home in studio. You know, playing the drums. That's how I grow up. That's why I did it, because I didn't want to become like an influencer or stuff like that. So
Well, our job is to. I mean, look at me. I don't look good. I'm behind the drums.
Guy.
You know, you don't.
that's why we hide behind. Big
I hide
symbols.
behind the drums, and I set the tone for the other guys to look good. Yes, which that's the very base model, of course. You know, I stick my tongue out and smile at people from time to time, but I don't know. It's like I'm nervous around people. I don't like having conversations, all that kind of stuff. Just put me behind the drums. But you know, I don't know. It, like I said, there's a lot of, you know, old man barking at clouds things. Like why did the music industry go this way? Why is everything boiled down to a 20-second short? You know.
Yeah.
But I get that, like, kids or whatever, when you want to become a musician, they kind of, it's the only way to get the name out in a way. So it's kind of
It's definitely a resume.
yeah, it's kind of a thing in between, even if you don't want to do it, but you have to do it in a way to get, yeah.
Got it. I agree.
But it's also like, there's a way of doing it the right way, and there's a way of doing it a silly way. So I always appreciate those drummers who are doing it like the real way, like not in a too circus kind of style or whatever. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
There's a couple of people I follow that are 100% circus acts, and that's why I follow them. But at the same time, you know, it's the balance.
exactly, yeah. Absolutely. Can you hand me a bit of water?
Geez, Martin, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take a long enough nap after all this food.
Oh, we still have to play a show today, right?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that. Because, like, for example, if you want to play in a band like Belfigor, I don't think you need to make a fool out of yourself in the video. You just have to perform, and have to perform good, and that's it, and that's what counts. Nothing else.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the main reason I do a lot of different projects, is because, you know, Origin, when you compare it to Hate Eternal, Origin's almost a jazz band. It's definitely a grindcore band when you stack it against Hate Eternal. And you know, like Paul Ryan, he needs very specific things in his blast beats and his double bass. Eric Rattan needs very specific things in his blast beats and his double bass. So, you know, I learned from Gene and Pete way back in the early days, and then I hooked up with Paul and Jeremy, and I learned from those guys. You know, I got to learn a lot from Sean Kelly, Dimmock, and now I'm learning from Eric. And for me, it's really just learning how to do this stuff in all these different point of view. And that really comes down to going to that person's house and sitting with them and making music with them. And that's the most valuable thing I take away from all this. Like Luke LeMay, Terrence Hobbs, Eric Rattan, totally different approaches.
Oh,
And you're better from learning all these guys' different approaches. So
That's true. That's true.
Also, you learn from every show you play, basically. There's
Oh,
always
yeah.
something you
that's
take away.
important, yeah.
You know, I started in a school band in the 5th grade. So I did like, my first concert was after like 2 times sitting behind a drum kit. So
Really?
it was like, I jumped in the ice cold water like right away.
Yep.
I mean, we played like Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, stuff like that, Enter Sandman, Metallica. And of course it wasn't perfect, no, it was far away from this, but it was so much fun, you know. So that's where I learned the most, like from playing live with people, to interact with them and see like if you fuck up, how to get in again, you know.
Yeah.
Those things kind of shape you as a musician a lot.
You know what shaped me the most when it comes to playing live? My triggers not working properly. That's a nightmare.
Isn't that funny how that's not a thing anymore? Oh. Oh boy. Yeah. That's he's using triggers. Yeah, that was one of the things, is he's using triggers. And it is so weird how that has come back. Because, you know, you get back to the early 2000s and nobody really had the footage. So they go and they watch the guy and he's fucking sloppy. Why? Because he's triggers. Whatever the fucking whatever. And then you'd watch some other guy play with triggers, and you're standing in the middle of the room and you're hearing his bass drums just go like, ooh, maybe that's what's going on with triggers, because you're watching a really good drummer work with a D4, and Elise's D4, and
Red triggers.
the red D drum triggers, and you're watching this guy, and he flubs a little, fuck that guy, right? You know, and so just learning the curve was one thing, and now everybody, it kind of went away for a while. Like, first off, you can't 2-foot. Second, you can't trigger. Wait, what's one-handed roll? Nope. Double strokes? Nope. But in the meantime, you're watching the guitar player, you know, and you're watching, so the backing tracks are starting to happen. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, fuck, now everyone's mad at guitar players because they're using backing track. And now, but then just the other day, he's like, he's using triggers, dog. And then somebody else goes, you use triggers, dick. And like, oh my God, they're back at it.
I never cared of it. You know, I had to deliver with bands, and trigger was the only way to deliver a good kick sound.
Especially when the sound man said, oh, thank you for using triggers.
Exactly. So I never cared about this. I was just like doing my own thing, and because if you would like take everyone's opinion, what would you end up with? With nothing, you know.
Got it.
So
I feel like the competitive, I don't know, because every European drummer I talked to didn't seem to catch on to the competitive aspect of it, what was going on in the States. You know, because you had the Tampa guys, the California guys, and the New York guys, right? And then we're on our weird little nothing island in Kansas being like, well, I don't know. And there was so much like music police happening, and they would just show up and just look at you. And then you knew that someone was gonna say something nasty on the internet about you. So there was, okay, I know drumming isn't a competition, but, and then just unleash diatribe. And yeah, it very much was a competition in the States. And it was a very, it's a statement. It's such a statement to be a death metal drummer in the early 2000s. And yeah, you dudes would chew each other up over it. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it definitely created a point of view for a lot of American drummers, I think.
I always never saw it like as a competition this way. I like try to compete with myself all the time. Like you said, like I always try to be the better myself from yesterday. So that was always my approach.
I didn't want to compete with others, but I did.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think it's good in a little percentage because, but you know, if it gets too toxic, you don't win anything over it. You know,
Don't want that in your life.
And toxic it got.
So guys, this is like the perfect time now for one of the questions that I've prepared and thought about the most. Since we talked about the difficulties of being a live drummer, now I have to focus. And that it's actually not always that easy, especially as a professional musician. So my question to both of you, I'm gonna read that because it's really a smart one. And it's an important one for everyone listening who's new to the game, who wants to push double bass limits, the speed limits, endurance, or it's about hand technique. So my question is, if you had to start all over again, 20 years young, without any drumming skills, no drumming skills whatsoever.
So you're already 20 and you want
You're
to start.
20, no drumming skills, but you already know what you know. What would you practice and focus on with the goal of improving your hand and foot speed and endurance as quickly as possible and becoming a full-time musician? Who wants to go first?
I would say I would still do the same thing as I did.
What did you
Because
do?
The Derek Roddy exercises, 4, 4, 8, 8, 16, 16, 32, 32.
What tempo would you start?
I mean, it depends on, I mean, if you have really no experience, that's a good question. Which tempo would I start? I need to see how
Slow.
it feels. Yeah, of course, slow, of course, yeah.
Okay.
But this is like such a good exercise, like, because it can get any better, like,
Okay.
because it's so simple. You can like fuck it up, and you can kind of see like how it feels when you play 8 notes aside, or you can also go to 12 next step. You don't have to go to 16, whatever. But you know, like the point is like you see like how it feels and how much you can push it in a way.
So you would do this for hands and for feet?
Yes.
And what advice would you give to your younger self or those drummers that are stuck at 140 or 150 with the full leg motion for years, if they want to use this exercise and push further?
I mean, I'm a stomper till 175, I would say. So
Full leg motion.
yeah. So just stomp it and work it out. But this kind of this is actually a good exercise to focus on those things. And because when you play 4 notes and then you just kind of copy the same thing on 8 notes, it should work out in a way.
Got it.
So yeah, what's your take?
I think I would want to understand more about the gear shifting, you know, going from full leg stomp to, I never I saw Trim do really nice ankle only, you know. This is back in 2001, and when he was doing Zyklon. I think it was 2001. And we were just marveling at his double bass technique at the time. Now, keep in mind, he was at, what, 215, 210 or something like that. But it was still just this beautiful, only ankle motion at the time. I think. I could be wrong, man. But, because I struggled for so long to get double bass to go fast, because all I knew was just kind of full leg running on my pedals. Because I was looking at Pete, I was looking at Dave Lombardo and Paul Bostaff, and you know, never really got a look at Gene, never really got a look at Pete. You know, I think Cole Ross was kind of running on his pedals too. Like a lot of these guys were making that work, and I just hated it. I hated just the whole locked leg running thing, and I would have liked to have been able to avoid that because that was working to an extent. But by the time I got into the room with Angel Corpse, and by the time we got to the recording studio in 1996, you know, and I just couldn't do it. And I would have liked to have been more mindful about, you know, the foot technique, understanding how keeping, having the correct balance and making your ankles work more. I would have appreciated that. And understanding that the original blast beat was basically, you know, just learning how to assign different limbs to single stroke rolls. Having that simplified down, boiled down to that. Because that never got boiled down until I met Derek and Mike Mangini.
Yeah.
And I kind of took both of their perspectives and kind of mashed it together and kind of came up with my own understanding of it. So that would have been nice, you know. Because I worked a lot in the room to get nothing. just stomping the crap out of my pedals, you know,
Me too.
and just burning myself out. I'm gonna turn the heat on. It's August. I'm gonna sweat a lot. I'm gonna wear boots and jeans, and I'm just gonna put myself through the furnace and just and run. And I come out of there. My calves, my thighs are locked up. My knees hurt, and nothing. You know, so
Got it.
there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I would definitely start with heel toe right away with the feet.
Yeah, really?
It's such a energy saving technique.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I switched back to it, especially for
You're
live.
not playing for the faster stuff, no swivel, single strokes anymore?
Not anymore.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Wow.
I play like 275. I play like full leg, and then I switched to heel toe right away.
175.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we toured together, and he was in Belfagor, and he had been playing his double strokes, and he switched to single strokes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, man? And then we come back out here, and so I'm playing double strokes again. I was just like, God damn it, Simon. You know,
You know, like
it's awesome.
I don't have to warm up for it, you know. So I just basically sit there and play it, you know. It's just
comfortable.
there, absolutely. Yeah. Don't have to like focus so much anymore. You know, like there's more headroom for my hands to think about, so I
Got
can
it, yeah.
concentrate more on those things.
Okay, yeah, and also creativity.
Exactly,
being in the
exactly.
moment, yeah.
And also one thing I would like focus on when I would start away, if I would start right now, I'm more on rudiments, because I didn't do it for years and years. I was just only focusing on speed, on single strokes, double strokes. That's it. So I would pay more attention to rudiments, because it opens up your whole vocabulary, you know, like, and it makes things easier. You know, you're more freely to use more stuff on the drum kit. It's as easy as it is.
Actually, when it comes to simplicity with metal drumming, the two rudiments that I would recommend are not singles and doubles. I want to think about doubles as well. Singles and unisons.
Oh, yeah.
And you actually, I don't know if this happened to you, but for me, after years of playing just blast beats for Belfagor, traditional blast beats, actually playing a tight backbeat with hands and feet in unison was a problem, because I was just so used to single strokes, with that right, left all the time. And if you do just that for a full song, and there's like 4 bars of backbeat in there, yes, I was still okay playing a backbeat, but it was not like, okay, this is super tight, and I have to focus to play a tight backbeat. So this is what happened to me. So for me, it would be singles and unisons actually.
I mean, there's rock and roll from Led Zeppelin, where you even have like dynamics. You play at the same time, higher than snare, but you play even like dynamics with your left hand, you know, because the backbeat is there, but also the ghost notes are. So this is a perfect song to practice this.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
That was always the funny thing about the Back in Black thing. Was I was lucky enough to work at the Drummers Collective in New York for a few years, and I got to see some of the best working New York City musicians just train an entire school of music, and it was one of the biggest learning experiences ever, just watching these guys and talking to these guys. And he would always put Back in Black on, and he would always have these drummers play to Back in Black. And every drummer fell for it, you know, including a couple of friends of mine. I even tried it on a couple of friends. Play Back in Black. I'm like, play Back in Black. Boom. Okay. So the whole Back in Black thing, and I guess what people didn't quite get was that is a consistency and a meditation thing, is that it's got one drum fill. But you know.
Yeah.
And the idea is that, can you hold this backbeat? Can you make this backbeat flow correctly for how many measures it is, without breaking it up into drum fills, without I gotta put my feel in it. No, you don't. Band leader says, play this beat, and you get paid. It's a completely different world. So you have to sit down and play that song and not put your feel into it, not put a bunch of drum fills into it, hold the band down, you know, recreate Back in Black for the people on the dance floor. And I know that one of the teachers was using it as kind of a, how cleanly can you play something? Like, how well can you repeat something before your brain goes, you know, it was almost like an ADHD teaching. You know, he was teaching people how to understand minimalism and how to be the metronome.
It's
Because
the same with me every day with Blonde Beast, you know, this offbeat hi-hat thing.
Yeah.
When I started with the band, I did like this and here tick stuff,
Yep.
and I was like, it didn't, you know, no one was complaining, but I was like, no, it doesn't feel right, you know. When I watched the YouTube video later, I was like, no. So I really keep it simple, and you know that the funny thing is like this is one of the most difficult songs, because to keep it simple, you know, your brain is like doing tricks on you, you know, you want to do this and this and this, but you know, you keep it simple and you keep it for 5 minutes simple.
the
So
song
this
is
is like.
fascinating because that's kind of a happy beat.
Yeah.
But that is not a happy song.
No, it's
and that song would not be as pissed without that beat. It's just like that
Exactly.
song is just a truck.
Exactly.
And yeah, and if you break it down to its parts, it doesn't make any sense. But that's just some brilliant songwriting. And you know, yeah, that's
And also the fact the hi-hat is all the time in offbeat, so you have to rethink the whole thing, you know, because it never starts on the one; it's always on the end. So it's like, and I played open-handed because it feels more. I can like do the crashes this way because my hi-hat is pretty far away because I have 8, 10, 12, 13, whatever, lots of toms there.
Huge kid.
So like the hi-hat is really far away, so it would feel a bit like weird to play like this. So I played open. It was also. It's also like a learning process to play open-handed and then to play like the on the on and on the offbeat, and so I try to challenge myself a bit. If you play songs like for years and years, always try to like do a bit. But of course, I practiced it at home before a few times to get the muscle-mind connection.
The most brutal thing I can say as a death metal musician is like, listen to Josie by Steely Dan, which is the last song on Asia, and the whole thing is a linear hat and snare. And that was another thing at the music school, is getting people to just do that, because if you can get the student to just do that, then you can teach them, because you can pull them in and they learn.
Yeah, John, one thing that you mentioned before that I really vibe with is you talked about minimalism. And I don't know, maybe it's the older I get, the more I like, when it comes to practicing, for example. In the past, you know, I don't know how long I saved up to have like a second kick drum. So 2 bass drums. I wanted 3 toms in front of me. Okay, at one point it was 4 just to test it. 2 splashes, all of that big stuff. And the older I get, the more, when it comes to practicing, I prefer the simplicity of having just 1 practice pad in front of you, 1 double bass pedal, doesn't matter which one, and a regular kick drum practice pad. I love this more every single day, because it's like there's no faking in there. If you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
If you're not fast today, you're not fast. If you're not tight at mid tempos, or if you struggle at mid tempos and it's exhausting, that's on you, because like the practice pad can't lie. It's like so I really love that right now, but maybe it's just me getting older.
Well, after a while, you get sick of all the gadgets.
Yeah, the gadgets.
And you stop relying on the infinite adjustment possibilities and the little thing over here, and you've got, you know, I don't know. I don't like setting up that much crap anymore. I have a big monster double bass kit. There's a time and a place for that. I'm playing on 2 kick drums, 2 rack toms, and 1 floor tom on this tour. I still have 2 rides and kind of 2 of everything, but it is so pared down to what it used to be. And like the US tour I just did, it was 1 kick drum. It was 1 20-inch kick drum and a double pedal.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, the simplicity of it is easier as you get older, but also the simplicity of it, for me, if I go out on tour and play a 5-piece, that just makes me want to go out on tour and play the big kit next time around. So there's also, it brings in a lot more choices, I think, and not getting sick of things as quickly.
I just like the way the toms sound from an 8 to 16, so you have a lot of possibilities to like make it like a nice sounding fills, like starting from, and I also like to tune the 8 tom a bit higher, so I have a bit more like of an rototom kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Rototom.
fits really good with Marduk, like this kind of black metal thing.
That's one thing I can mention right here is when it comes to tom fills, the reason why I don't really like to use toms is the way I sound on toms. I don't like the way I sound when playing a tom fill, for example. And when it comes to me, and both of you are also great examples for great, powerfully performed tom fills. So maybe we can add some clips later on, right here from both of you. And the king when it comes to tom fills for me is Niels Bjerström, the Dominator.
Yeah.
And he shows you what's possible with tom fills. One thing that I don't like, that reminds me of myself, and that's why I don't like tom fills and I don't like to play them, is at one point George Colias of Nile, he started to playing like kick drum, quarter notes or eighth notes for every tom fill all the time. And at one point, you know, drummers started to copy that, but it's either a bad mix live or they lose power on the tom fills because they're mostly using finger control just on the snare, which is tuned highly, high tension. And then they lose power with the toms. And all you see him play a tom fill, but all you hear is this. You just hear the kick. And it really sounds bad. And I know, like at one gig in Vienna, it was Tim Young playing with Morbid Angel back in the days. It was hit for Morbid Angel. And he was playing, and before Morbid Angel, it was Nile. And it was not George. It was just the sound was off that day. And you just heard that kick drum and like no tom fills were there. And then there was Tim Young, who also sounds great when it comes to tom fills. And it was just like brute force. And he sounded so great that day. And of course, you don't want to compare drummers, but his fills just sounded better that day because the sound was also better. So if you're able, if you can manage to get your toms sound great, and George Colias, by the way, his tom fills sound great. It's just like a day off with the sound guy, that's something different. But like this as an example, if you're sounding bad at tom fills like me, I don't really like to do them that as much. And my goal would be like, if I bring back some toms, it would be I want to sound like Niels, because this is crazy if you've ever heard him play live.
Yeah, Nils hits like a ton of bricks, and there is like a, you know, as I was saying earlier, you kind of got to listen to your sound elf, you know. And you got like, what do you need me to do? And they'll usually tell you, because this music is so finicky to get reproduced live. It's so fast. Everybody's pushing, you know,
It's also a wall of sound.
it's
from
a
the
wall of
guitars
sound,
already, yeah.
and you know, people are getting right in front of it, so a lot of times it's just blowing past people's senses. And but yeah, so you got to think about the sound guy, and he might hate this room, he might dislike this board, he might be having his own set of issues, and you know, there's so many variables involved. And like, yeah, a lot of times you get that quarter note kick drum with the toms, you know.
It's also, this is a good thing for the band also, because especially what you say, like if a drummer can't really like play the tom fill correctly, he sometimes also misses time. So for the band, it's really good to have the kick. So you always have to.
That's true, yeah.
So it's kind of good for the band to follow.
I can tell when my guys are going to turn around, and like they both do the same thing. They both kind of do this sort of like backing up, sort of semi-truck thing. Beep, beep, beep. And I'm like,
And then
okay,
you know exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4. If Mike comes over, I got to hit this chime. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow,
1, 2, 3, 4. You know, because they, depending on how the stage sounds, depending on how the monitors are behaving, you know, it's.
If
Or-
kind of thing, Daniel turns around and makes this. I know exactly he needs cymbals. He needs like shiner hits for the next. So I wait for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, and then and then everyone finds back to it. And
Got it.
it's like that's the body language you learn like on stage.
Yeah.
Do you look at do you look at the back of your guitar player's hands?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
I look at that and I see them when they're getting ready to go in for a vocal.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. You know, I did this one tour with Nerve Cell, band from Dubai, in Brazil, like end of 2018. And I did like around 23 club shows in Brazil. And like
Wow.
90% was no monitors. And Nerve Cell is kind of like technical death metal stuff. And this is, I learned so much on this tour, because no monitors, bad sound. And you had to learn like the language, you know, of everyone's like hand, what's doing. So you know exactly, oh, this is the next one, this is the next one. So you kind of find back, you know, in place again, because you can just read the body language of everyone.
Yeah.
This is like something you can't learn in a video, for example. This is like what you learn on the road. Playing
There
shows.
can be hours of discussion of how musicians that work in this format, more or less, learning how the band works together. And there are hours that you could discuss on how that works versus when you have everybody on a click and guide tracks. You know, it's such a different thing. I think, you know, because it's going in such opposite directions. Like you've got all these bands that focus on reading each other and getting the song across in a very organic manner. Those are all the guys that have amplifiers. Those are also all the guys that got hangovers a lot of times, you know, because they're older. And then you got a lot of the other dudes that have the amp sims going straight into the board, and they got the clicks and all that, and they're, by all means, they're probably playing a little sharper. But there's something that doesn't translate in the fact that they're all on clicks. Nothing wrong with clicks. I use clicks live, but if everybody's on a click, there's no real lock with the musicians. And then there's no amps, so it's not really moving much air live. So the guitar just kind of goes, and it doesn't really, you don't feel it come up out of the stage and hit the people.
And so, I don't want to go too show and see a perfect performance.
No.
You know,
okay.
No, it's death metal. It's supposed to got.
I like the live vibe, you know. I like it also sometimes, you know. I seen a Deep Purple cover band with INPs on drums, and he lost like a few times a stick and he was still smiling, and it just, you know, I remembered it so good, so well, because I was like, yeah, I'm the same guy, I also lose sticks, you know. We all do, you know, even our heroes, and he was just like having a big smile on his face, you know, and the drum tech came and gave him a new one, and he was like playing, you know. It was such a nice like thing to witness, you know. So that's what I mean. I don't want to see a perfect show. I want to see little hiccups here and there to know it's live, you know.
And also, if the technology goes down, your band can't finish the song.
I don't know what I should think about clicks. With Belphegor I used them, with Marduk I don't. It was always a safe thing with Belphegor. But with Marduk it's more like of a rock and roll feeling, because you don't really know where you end up, you know. You count in and then you see what's happening, you know. So it's kind of, it's more raw deal, I would say. So I like it. But like I said, with click it's more safe thing, but it doesn't have to be safe all the time. It has to be also a bit dangerous in a way, you know.
I have like half the set on a click.
Heck?
Yeah, yeah. The first song there's no click, and it's a sprint. And then there's two songs that are on the click, and that kind of gets us, because I look at a lot of footage from 10 years ago when we were playing songs and we were at like a very sloppy 270 by the end of the set, by the end of the tour. I'm sorry, like every song is like a minute shorter, and that's just like that's just not. That's cool, but you know, people are like, it doesn't even sound like the fucking album anymore. So I started putting the Governor on, I guess, also just to kind of save my body from it, because overplaying, just, you know, my limbs just don't respond to the next day as well if I just push too much. And so yeah, there's a little bit of I guess like responsible housekeeping going on with having 5 click tracks in a 10-song set. You know, by the time we get to the last three songs, Aftermath, it starts on a click and then it kills, and then it stops, and then that song always goes completely.
But do you decide when it stops? Do you decide when it stops?
Yeah, I hit the stop button usually at the first bass break. But that song is kind of fun like that. That song, you know, we're at the end of the set. We've got one more song after that, so that one you can kind of, you can let your hair down and take your bra off and go. And that's, but, you know, I have to be mindful about there's going to be a show tomorrow.
Got it.
And yeah, I also, that's one of the things I learned. John Gallagher came right up to me one day when I was playing with Fetus, and he just goes, "Hey man, I know you're having fun, but I need you to play the same thing every night, because we can't follow you when you're doing weird Latin China patterns over a song that doesn't have weird Latin China patterns." And the fact that he just came up and just said it without being a dick and being really cool, that has followed me the entire time. So I think about that quite often, because Origin does albums so fast. Like, we get in the room for a week, smash everything together, we get in the studio, we track it, we go home. And then as we go out live, the song over the months and years kind of morphs into something final. So
yeah, I'm the same. Sometimes I think like, I would have like played this part in studio like I do it now. It's like, because like you said, sometimes stuff like shapes really quickly, and you don't have the time to like think like into all details. So when you play live, you think, oh, I could play this here and there. Oh, it sounds really good. I wish I would have known a bit earlier, but
See, that's when you take it to the studio the next time, and then you got to not play it on that song anymore.
Since we just started to talk about studio recording sessions, talked a lot about live drumming. What's your take on basically either replacing the drummer in studio and just programming everything, or just sending a drummer in there and who maybe he's not there yet with his skill set yet, and they just fake a lot of stuff, especially kick drums? What's your take on that?
I think pressure is pretty high nowadays. You can see that with all these perfect sounding YouTube clips. It's not even a record or something, it's just a cover, but it sounds so perfect, because everything is replaced with samples already. And I felt like sometimes when I record a video of a cover or whatever, and can I really release it, because it sounds so much worse than what little kids release nowadays, or sound-wise, So I kind of feel like there's a lot of pressure on people nowadays, to release perfectly quantized stuff, because otherwise, all these comments, they will slaughter you in the comments. So I can see the point where they do it, but we should get back to an old approach, just play what you're able, because if you
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
if you kind of say Steve Eschheim from D-Side, you could hear immediately
Yeah.
it was him, or
amazing.
if you go even more back, like John Bonham, immediately it's his, because he had his style, he had his sound. Nowadays everything sounds the same because they all use the same sample bank, and everything is on the grid, so you can't really tell, probably by a right symbol or whatever. Oh, it could be this drummer because he used this right, but that's all you get nowadays. And back then, you could tell immediately, after 5 seconds, oh, I think it's this guy, because he plays this way and he has these kind of sounds. And we should go back to this, to focus more on the real deal again.
John?
Everything I've recorded is full of glaring flaws that I can't stand, that the sound guy might have gone, that's cool though. And it really, really apparent on the last on the Neurectomy record I did a few years ago, and the Malefic Throne record that I did last summer, which is me and Gene from the Angel Corps, Steve Tucker. And so many times I'm just playing this part, doing whatever, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna suck. Do it again. And then we go back and we're listening to the playbacks, and we go back to that part, and that boogity boogity bup, or whatever the thing, the engineer's just like, what the fuck was that? That was amazing. I'm like, that was terrible. He goes, no. And that's again listening to your sound elves, these guys, the second pair of ears. I'm lucky that I go to recording engineers that prefer that. They prefer finding the actual voice of the musician and amplifying that voice, rather than here's the Steven Slate sound bank, here's the grid, here's and like you said, trying to create recordings that compete with the 20-second long YouTube video. I don't know. I had a good conversation with an engineer who was saying that music is eventually going to go back minimalist. Everybody's going to want their tape machines back. I don't know if that's true, but
Oh, it's not gonna happen.
with all the technology and with everything, you're spending $6,000 on 2 mic pre's that were created by Rupert Neve, but yet nobody has the tom sound from South of Heaven. Nobody has the ride sound from Power Slave anymore. Nobody has the kick sound from what? Overkill album, Under the Influence, Terry Date. Nobody has these sounds. They all have the digital sounds. They all have that software sound. Okay, fine, sure, but that puts guys like me into a very weird box, and a very weird,
Got it.
old school. And I started playing this shit in the 2000s, or late 90s. I'm sorry, but
More than 20 years.
not old school. No, old school is Venom, Sodom. That's old school. Metallica is old school. Origin's not old school,
No.
but we're getting there.
I can tell you, I have a completely different opinion than both of you. Actually, and I can tell you why. And when I first started out, the big topic was, and this was when I was on tour with Belfagor starting in 2009.
Yeah, dreadlocks.
So like, but back then I didn't have dreadlocks. I just had long hair, and the big discussion on tour was every band was whining and complaining about, hey, now our music is online and we don't sell as many records anymore, we don't get that money anymore, and now we have to find something new. And back then the next big thing was merchandise. Everyone was going all in on merchandise. We need the coffee mugs, we need the t-shirts and so on. So you evolve. Life's change, like everything's changing all the time. That's life. And this was like the first time where I saw in real life, and yes, it had an effect on me, but not like a super bad effect. I was there to play drums. Really simple. I had to focus on this one, where I saw something that you can't stop, and you can either adapt now or you're gonna die, or you're not gonna make it. And when it comes to drumming, you know, the drum editing started like more than 10 years ago already with the kick drums. In the beginning, kick drums going crazy, and now it's actually everything's replaced nowadays. Like then was the snare, of course, the snare sound, but then now everything is replaced, and those sound libraries, if you just have an electronic kit and a good sound library, they sound great. They sound like every other record. And the reason why this makes me personally so happy is because I know, especially I've been in a couple of bands myself as well, I know crazy guitar players who make decisions when the drummer is not there, telling him to play stuff that's almost humanly impossible or like close to impossible. And this is one thing that I really like. And the reason why I like it is this kind of shift, what's happening right now, provides me with the stability and the knowledge that I will see you guys again and again, you and those other extreme metal drummers, because, and I'm going to see you in Vienna, in my hometown, in my garden, having barbecue with you guys, because still live, there needs to be a drummer that has to play that stuff. And they need high-end performers and drummers that post on the internet that they can play 260 easily on a good day, and then you ask them for a recording and they tell you, okay, didn't record it, or no, I had this injury, or no, my pedals, not today. They're not going to be on tour. But the few that are able to pull that stuff off every day live and every night live, and there's only a few, and if the levels keep on, like if they start like the difficulty increases more and more, there's not going to be more metal drummers around. I can tell you from my experience with the Drumstick Academy, I started with the Academy in 2019. For some reason, it's almost all the same guys. Like, yeah, there are some new faces that pop up occasionally, but most of them are the same guys. And the reason why they get the gigs is that they are able to perform tight live. They know how to behave. They are not drunk before the show. They can play tight, and like there's no faking live. And with the internet and everyone filming everything, the drummers are not gonna get away with, okay, like we had this with Lars. Was it the Download Festival where they faked the kick drum sound in the DVD recording? And
Wait, who did this?
Lars Metallica.
Oh, Lars.
Like it was like one. It was the same, like you know the pattern. And there were videos, people filming him live, and it was completely off. And on the DVD, it sounds like
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I had a good talk with my friend about that, and he's like, watch the new Metallica footage. Holy cow. Lars is on a click, he's practicing, he's killing it. And I'm like, Lars! And then I saw the footage, the Metallica sanctioned footage, and then, yeah, somebody posted the fucking, and of course I'm like, Lars. God darn it. I still love Lars. But
me too. For him, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But he is a very important like symptom of the music industry for people to learn from.
Absolutely.
So,
like I said before, one of the first songs I ever played was Metallica, and so
Saint Anger or what?
Enter Sandman.
Okay, so to finish this one, I'm pretty sure that this is actually for us drummers that I like the job of being a session musician and a session drummer. And if they are going crazier and crazier with writing those drum parts, I see the same faces all the time. Drummers pushing the limits that are able to perform that stuff live, they get the gigs. And if this is my final thought, if this gets even crazier, the amount of drummers that can pull this off are gonna be less and less, and then your income will rise because they're gonna fight for you, and it's gonna be announcement like, okay, for this tour, the Bloodhammer is gonna be on the tour. We had the chance to finally hire John Longstreth.
I hope, man.
I see it already.
Well, the thing about touring, like the playing is the easy part, you know, which is that not with no arrogance at all, because we've been practicing this shit for so long. We don't have social lives. We don't interact very well with normal people. It's like, why are you so weird? Well, because paradiddles and double strokes. But for the most part, the playing is the easy part, and the person that can do this without falling down a bottle, without constantly eating McDonald's and can't fucking spend the night in a bunk. Because, you know, I spent 15 hours in my bunk last night watching TV, keeping quiet, eventually going to sleep, not drinking, not panicking because I couldn't take a shit somewhere, not having a fucking, you know, sodium bomb in the morning, you know. And if the guitar player is freaking out and the bass player is freaking out, well, maybe you shouldn't freak out, because you got to keep your game on point and you can't add to their problems. And they should think not to freak out and add to your problems. So there's a whole delicate ecosystem, to quote the bear, on tour, where you really have to mind yourself. And you got to mind yourself so much more than playing. You got to mind how you're eating. You got to mind how you're drinking. You got to mind how you're getting along with people. You can't be a dramatic baby and throw things around and just fuck everything up for everybody else. You got to be careful, because there are 3-4 bands that have to do this every night, and it gets harder. It gets harder. You're in New York City on a Friday night and it's spring and everybody's on fire and the set just plays itself and you have a great time. You're in, I don't know where, you're nothing wrong with Dayton, Ohio, but on a Tuesday night in January, it's not going to be as fun. And this set's not going to play itself and people aren't going to come up. And there's just so many variables you got to work yourself through. And that's the hard part about touring. I don't know. The playing's the easy part. The playing's the fun part. It's the other 23 hours, as Frank Zappa used to say.
This makes it even more difficult.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some of the most phenomenal drummers come out on the road and just crack 3 days in. You know, because it's such a different, you know.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure on your shoulder,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
also nowadays, like a lot of people film it and you can see every show online. So you know exactly you have to deliver every day, you know. Because back then no one was filming sometimes, you could just get away with a few things here and there. But not anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like
definite trial by fire, you know. Yeah, it's like, as far as like death metal musicians are concerned, like you had to, my position, not having the internet for a good chunk of my career and not knowing how to make money for the good chunk of my career, so I was working 9 hours at a day job and then coming to band practice and trying to do it right. And there's a lot in that. And I think, you know, a lot of the musicians that came out of the late 90s, early 2000s, they're just going to be stronger in a lot of cases. I think a lot of guys are much smarter today, you know, because I think there's a lot of just kind of like watching how mixed martial arts got boiled down to jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, and boxing. You know, they cut out a lot of the extra stuff, so you're seeing a lot of death metal kind of like more of like a homogenized musician. You know, because you got dudes out there that have like the most polished single foot blast technique on either side, you know, and it's beautiful. But it does, you do ask yourself whether that can be executed 30 days in a row.
Yeah, that's a good question, yeah. And since you just mentioned single foot blast beats, now let's switch to double bass drumming, actually, because my audience, like most of them following the Drum Tech Academy and this YouTube channel, are here for hand speed and endurance, but especially double bass drumming. Different techniques, singles, doubles, of course, and frustrations when it comes to double bass drumming. Man. So now my question for you, for both of you, is let's just stick to single strokes for now, then we're going to talk about doubles. Singles first. Which tempo zone is the most difficult for you to control with singles?
Okay, Martin. My singles have sucked forever. When I was doing heels down singles, they were pretty solid.
Yeah, they were solid. I saw
They were solid.
They were really
But
solid.
ever since then, once I discovered double stroke, once I figured out how to do double strokes, I kind of just locked myself into double stroke land, and my singles are terrible. To this day, they're fucking terrible. What can I say? I don't like 2-foot blasting. It feels really weird to me. I've got big, heavy legs. I have a real hard time keeping this even, and this is where I struggle the most. But after you very clearly showing people heel lift, calf clench, and let your shins go. This is how I interpreted it. That came to me to go back to what trim looked like back then in the day, you know, and I just saw such a nice little butterfly thing.
Yeah.
So I've been, you know, doing that every day for quite a bit now, and I am sitting at 220.
Whoa.
I can go but I can't put it together for 2 feet yet.
Since you mentioned this butterfly thingy.
And so that's my thing on single strokes. I
Okay.
suck at them.
But you're
I
improving.
fuck around with swivel every now and then, but I'm afraid for my knees a little.
Okay. The butterfly thingy. Are you talking about this nervous twitching motion?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And just when that goes, and when it just kind of when you're able to dial it in and just make it go, and it just kind of goes on its own, it's beautiful. It's like
I love
the nicest feeling thing.
And you know, nowadays, because you know we have one guy that's working at the academy. His name is Ollie, and his job is basically he's responsible for the email marketing and email responses as well, and he's checking social media. And the big topic right now is when it comes to the ankle technique, this twitching motion gets a really bad rap. So if someone posts a video of them playing, let's say at 180, just the right foot, eighth notes, and they say, I don't have control over that motion yet, it's a twitching motion, then drummers tell him to stop immediately, slow down to 80 or 100 BPM and start with a full leg motion because there's no control there. And my experience so far with myself when I worked on the ankle technique, and I share basically the same opinion as you, that's the same approach. At first, you start out with an uncontrolled twitching motion.
Yep.
At one point, you lock it in with the metronome, you get some feeling of what's happening there. And then at the end, at one point, you can start and stop at will as well. And then once you got that, you can play for long periods of time. Like, is endurance an issue at 190 BPM with a direct drive pedal if the pedal is doing most of the work for you? Because for me, it's not. It's like the pedal is, I'm just sitting there.
But it's getting out of your own way and letting the pedal do that work.
Oh, yeah.
It's listening to how you. It's because with the ankle thing, it's like the nervous twitch you got when you're sitting in school and you kind of bounce on your heel. You want to talk,
all the time.
right? Yeah, it's that. It's so it's mastering that, and being able to assign that can be daunting. And this is, you know, to get back to the other question, this is what I would have loved to have known in 1995. Even though it always kind of works because this is what the jazz guys taught you how to do on the hi-hat. So it was like I knew it. It was always there, but I never applied it. But yeah, so but like I said, to get to 240, I can gun it and break 255. And that's about it.
Okay.
But I have to lean in, and the pressure I have to put in is uncomfortable. So I'm still back, you know. Live, it's easy live. Mid-set, you know, there's some single foots in Saligia, easy to do.
Awesome.
But it's, in order to get that, you know, wake up, sit on your kit, you know you're getting somewhere when the amount of time to get warmed up and make it work is decreasing. And so that's where I'm at right now, is like being able to do these really nice, clean, heel up, ankle only, single foot blasts is now taking me 5 minutes to do when it used to take me 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Got it. One thing I want to add right here before we continue with Simon, especially since you have been using the heel toe technique for quite some time extensively, and I see this quite often at the academy. It's either drummers that have been using the heel toe a lot or the heel down technique, it's really hard. Basically, a metaphor would
Can't
be
shut your
okay.
shins off.
You can't shut your. Basically, for years you're going in this direction.
Mhm.
That's the heel toe or heel down technique, and the anchor technique and
Mhm.
relaxing your shoulders is this direction. So
Yeah.
first you have to go back. So
You
these
do.
drummers need longer to get used. I see this in my coaching. It takes them just weeks to just getting used to this motion and relaxing, and because it's really interesting. You're at such a high level already, but it's in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that's why you basically first have to go back and then move into a new direction.
More difficult to learn something new, like to relearn something than learn something new, because you have to there's already like your hard disk is already full with information, and you kind of have to remove them first and then get a new. But if it's empty, it's easier to get new information.
Got it. What about you, Simon?
So when I started, when I started with the fast double bass approach when I was like 14 or something. I was the same. I could play like one speed, and that's it. It was also like an uncontrolled kind of thing. But the thing is, I learned to control it somehow with the click, and then learned my way back and forth. I slowed it down and I sped it up. So it's not a bad thing per se if you like only have like this nervous kind of thing at one speed. You just have to learn to control it, like with the click to lock it in. And then like the start-stop positions, and then you just work your way down and up.
Up to BPM level.
Exactly, yeah. And I always like look at two things if I talk about singles with the feet. I have the full leg motion till whatever 170, 180, and then I have the whatever heel up or swivel. So for me, like get back to your first question, the most difficult part with the full leg is like. Yeah, when I max it out to 165, 170, because it's kind of a struggle, like to say the least. Yeah, and then if I go like above 175, 180, I think first to control 180, 185 was a struggle for me, because it always sucks when you're in between two techniques. Because your body is not really sure, should I use this technique, should I use this technique? So you kind of have to learn. To max out these or lower these technique, in a way. So this was like 180, 185 was always like a technique with singles. I didn't like that much. And then of course, when it comes to 260, 270, it's also a struggle. So, but with heel toe, it was the same way. Like
let's switch to heel toe now.
Heel toe was it was pretty easy on 220. It was there in a way once you learn the motion and have the trigger set up correctly. But then go to 180, it's also a bit different because there's more space in between, so you have to like somehow the second stroke has to be like really there. So this was like, I think the slower heel toe was more difficult than the faster, because once you like manage 220, 230, it kind of still stays the same movement, you just do it quicker and quicker and quicker. So I think the heel toe, the 180, 185 was also, or is still more the struggle than 220, 240.
Got it. Thank you. John, for you?
Double strokes?
Yeah.
Wow, where do I start? I remember when I discovered how that could potentially work. Shit, man, 2005, 2006, I don't know. But I was going to the room every day after work. I did this for 3 months, and I would practice shuffles with the foot, the full heel toe. Just because I really wanted to develop that second note. I didn't develop it until later down the line, but I knew what was happening there. And then as I got a little bit further back on the pedal and I was, getting this, and as eventually I was able to put that together and go record the album Antithesis, go out on the road and kind of eat shit for half the tour, but got back home and thought about songs to play along to, Psycho Holiday, Pantera, because it's just it's a much more approachable shuffle. I'm hot for teacher. I'm on a 1 foot hot for teacher, but Psycho Holiday was really good to get that. Caught Somewhere in Time.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. This is the perfect.
And there's another one that I wanted to say. You know what? One that really kind of shot me forward a little bit was thrash beat with the doubles underneath it. That, like what Demolition Hammer, and because then and just like kind of pulling your hands and your legs in two separate directions was what really did it. So for a long time, I was really good at making the doubles sound pretty snappy acoustically. I, admit to getting a little bit older, and my right knee isn't what it used to be. So sometimes I'm now a lot more obsessed with how I'm sitting, and I'm finding that I'm almost at a perfect 90 for my double strokes to work.
Doubles, yeah.
I sit a lot lower than I used to.
But also, I can tell your back is like perfectly straight when you sit.
Yeah, and it's like my drum set is actually the snare drum. If I do this, the whole kit's too high.
Yeah.
So why does everything fucking suck tonight? And because I'm like this, so I have to, if I don't sit up, my drum set punishes me, and that helps the doubles. It helps the limited amount of single foots that I'm doing, and it really tells me how to 2-foot. Because like 2-foot, I can't not just stomp the crap out of it. I've done this a couple of times where I put my heels down on the pedals, and that's plenty loud, and that is really even, but my upper body doesn't like that. So I think I'm on a tirade right now. But double strokes, it's just...
Is it more difficult for you to play slow or fast?
Well,
Doesn't matter anymore.
no, I don't know. The slower I am, the higher up on the pedal I'm going to be, I feel like. The faster I'm going to come back, and I'm going to get more into like dribble territory, where you're doing more of a closed stroke roll.
Yeah, we talked about this. I stay the same all the time.
Yeah, he's the same spot on the pedals all the time. There was even a point in time where I found myself kind of
Really?
swivel double stroking a little bit. It's just an ongoing thing. It's and that's what makes it so difficult to teach. Is that this is just something that when I kind of fell into it, it's every 6 months something different happens.
That's what I keep telling students when they ask me. I was like, it's always good to watch a few videos and get like bits here and there, but still put your own mind to it and think, because everybody is different. I have, I'm taller than him, for example, so I sit different.
Yeah.
So you cannot say, okay, the seat height has to be this and this. You cannot say like
always in relation.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good to inform yourself and get the bits from here and there, but like put your own mind into it and think about it if it makes sense for you or not, and then try it out and see how your body reacts.
My seat is exactly 4 turns lower.
Really?
Yeah, because we share the seat, so we know
got it
exactly
marked.
what to do.
Yeah, because during the kit switchover, I help with some of the things, and yeah, he's just taller, so like his drum set feels kind of like Gene Hoglan's drum set to me.
Yeah.
I'm not small, but I'm shorter, and I just play in here a lot more. I gotta mind my shoulders. My shoulders will go in. I gotta make sure, because I love playing in here, because to me, this is strong, this is weak. So I like playing in here. I like my elbows, usually hand width. The cymbals are up, but they're here. So
Got it.
yeah, minding posture. Double strokes, the thing I don't like about the double strokes is it gets a little grunty for me sometimes, a little grindy. Push into it, and if I'm tired, I just don't want to do that.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just a pain in the ass. And then, of course, well, that's not real double bass, fucking dude that's been playing for 2 years, But it's
when I look back to the old Derek Roddy form, I still remember the time when you started to practice doubles and you posted updates infrequently about your progress with the technique. This was like shortly before I think you recorded the record, and then the record was out with one low quality video of John playing doubles. And yeah, it was just amazing, because that's the one thing I like about metal drumming and extreme metal drumming, and I still love this till this day, is that many of us, and you too especially, are also on that list, you have the balls to push the boundaries because you want to. not because someone else tells you or because you're gonna get more views on social media or whatever. You doing your thing, and I still remember your double bass clip there with the heel toe doubles that sounded really even. So you could tell, okay, this is not a shortcut that he's looking for. He's putting in the work, and they sound even. Like if you take Virtual Donati, I can be blind, drunk at 4 a.m. in the morning. You wake me up and you play a clip of Virtual Donati playing inverted doubles, and someone else who's not putting in the time and tells you that this is like the best thing to do because you can play double bass within 3 months. There's such a huge difference in sound and the end result. And I love that you're still, also both of you are still learning and still pushing the limits of this instrument. That's why I loved it in the first place. The sound of tight drums, but also drummers just like going for it, pushing as much as possible.
I really wish death metal drummers, modern death metal drummers today, would stop using terms like cheat technique and discount double and gamble double. I treat it like a technique. It sucks because you can get out there and you can dribble on the kick and you can, this is easy. I don't have to, whatever. I did learn this in 3 days. I got the cheat code, and that sucks. That really fucking sucks, because death metal drumming, the reason we love it so much is because it's so fucking difficult.
Yeah.
And when you get that thing to work, and like that thing that you heard Pete Sandoval doing, like and you finally figure it out, whoa, and you fight, and then you add to it, and then you're Derek Roddy, and then you've stepped it up, and then you're George Colias, and you've stepped it up, and then you're Nils, and you've brought another addition to it. That's the fucking soul of being a musician. And a lot of the guys just want to, I don't want to fucking sound like this, but it sucks because you see the dudes that, I can't play it because the triggers and this and that. Oh, and then I got this problem over here, and then that didn't work because how do I set the triggers for double strokes? And that question is a dangerous question, because anybody that knows how to play double strokes is just going to say, work on your double strokes, and you don't really need to have a special setting. The whole thing, the whole part of my playing double strokes the last 10 years was to trim away the bizarre settings it took. Like, I don't want to have the variable drive level on the access pedal all the way at the bottom anymore. I don't want the heel risers anymore. I don't want pedal mounted triggers anymore. I'm realizing that's not really a thing for me anymore. I want dead kick drums and tight springs. That's basically it. You know, and so I'm not trying to talk high and mighty, but like, this is like a modern technique that has a lot of people playing ripping fast double bass. And is also a technique that has a lot of people saying, I don't like you because your technique is shit, because you're you know, nobody ever went at a fucking single foot blast beat after watching Pete Sandoval and just like, oh, I got it. I just did the bare minimum. Like, anybody that watched Sandoval and wanted to pick up a single foot blast, like, went all in. And that's, I guess that's us. We're just all in weirdos.
One thing that's, sorry, Simon. Yeah.
I just want to say that there's no shortcut, you know, like people ask for shortcuts all the time, but there is no way. You just have to put the work into it.
Well, you have to love the discovery aspect of it.
Exactly, also.
And then you're gonna play drums for life, like hopefully all of us. And funny, when you now talked about a couple of drummers like Derek and George and Niels and so on, and this brings me back to my point that I mentioned before. Those are still the top dogs. George is still the top dog. Niels, maybe Derek is not on tour as much anymore, but still.
No, but have a 20-minute conversation and don't learn something.
Yeah,
you failed. Come on.
And this brings me back to those drummers that put in the time and got to that skill set. They still can tour. So if Derek basically posts on Instagram or Facebook, hey, I'm available in August. Who wants me as their drummer? He's like hired within a day. Same for you two guys. And actually, that's what I love about drumming, because if musicians and guitar players push the boundaries for drummers, it's going to be the same guys that are able to perform at their best in a live situation that's going to get the gigs, and I'm going to have the chance in the future to also hang out with you guys because you're visiting me in Vienna. I'm not on tour. I'm here with my family and with three young kids. below the age of 2,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. You can't travel as much. So I'm happy when you're visiting my hometown. So, guys, first of all,
One name I would still want to bring up is Nick Barker. He influenced
Absolutely.
me so much with his Tom splash fills. I do
his
all the
Tom
time.
sounded great as well.
Yeah, I love it.
I
I
didn't
love
mention
it.
before, but that
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Nick brought so much Neil Peart into into death metal and black metal drumming,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I don't.
Good to mention him, yeah.
And I got to happen to use his
Ah.
drum kit in Norway beginning of the year.
Yeah.
In January we played a festival in Norway, and you know I sent a rider and they were like, yeah, the house kit doesn't have this and this and that. Please kind of, you know, provide the stuff. And he was like, yeah, I know someone. And then you know I came to the festival and I saw this like black pearl kit with the 20-inch kicks, like
20-inch kicks
Masterworks
in the square tom.
and black hardware. I was like, dude, I know this kit from somewhere. And he was like, yeah, it's old Nick Barker drum kit. I was like, what? So I got to
crazy.
play on his kit with the spikes on the cymbal stands.
really?
You know, it
Yeah.
was such a nice feeling. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was
Awesome.
really
One of these
cool.
days, I just want to. I want to sit at Nico's kit.
Oh yeah.
I've never done that. I want to. There's such a mystery to me on that row of 4 toms
Yeah.
as how high those things are.
Så nog var så.
I would also love to sit behind Bo Staff's
Oh, yeah.
Bo Staff's first, the chrome one that he had during the vine. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, guys, I think that's it for today. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Both of them are
Thank you
playing a
so
show.
much. It was-
Yeah.
This
Both
has been
them-
the best pre-show.
Yes,
Yeah, this is great. I
This is
mean-
awesome. Also having the sound on my back, it's just like a holiday.
You're getting a
feel.
tan.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your sun.
So
It'll help your blast beats. Your vitamin B.
vitamin
Blast.
D.
Vitamin D. D beat. Your vitamin D beat.
Alrighty, guys. Your final words for our audience. If you can sum up your knowledge in one sentence. Now, one tip you would give your younger self in one sentence.
My younger self?
Yes, your 20-year-old self.
Oh man.
There's just there's so much to the art, the drumming. Just learning the techniques and, you know, talking to the musicians that are cool enough to talk to you that came before you and talk to the new ones. There's so much to learn, and like there's a lot of like crazy party bullshit that you really don't. I didn't need to do in the past. Maybe I needed to just
Get it done.
get it done and be the fucking crazy person on tour, but like I'm in my late 40s now and I'm a better drummer than I ever was when I was young, and I'm playing the most physically demanding music in existence, and so I'm kind of chasing the clock now. You know, you say you're going to play drums for the rest of your life. I will play drums for the rest of my life. I don't know if I'll play Origin drums for the rest of my life, or you hate Eternal drums, but like I have to be very mindful about what I eat and drink, and you know how I position myself throughout life on tour and all that kind of stuff, and just don't do stupid shit. Really, it's the easiest rule to follow. Just don't be a
One
dumbass.
sentence. Don't
Don't be a dumbass.
Don't
You got such a cool position. If you're
Oh, yeah.
if you're able to be a death metal drummer that can carry a band and have your own voice, that's, you know, that's life enough. That's that. Boom.
Thank you.
Not to quote Neil Peart, but you know, that's life enough for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Simon?
I would just say follow yourself, you know, just do what you feel like to do, and then because it brought me where I am, so
Yeah.
can't be that wrong,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, so to say, because I, you know, try to never like I don't know, it's hard to say, but always just follow what it feels best for you, and that's it, you know. If this technique feels good for you, go for it. Even if people say it's cheating or whatever, don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Just make the best out of it, what you think is good for you.
It's good for you.
That's
Remember,
it.
you're playing the devil's music. You don't got to apply by the rules.
Exactly.
That's it.
Apply
So,
by the rules.
thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that I can welcome you two both back again
anytime.
in Vienna. Maybe not this year. I don't know about the touring schedule, but maybe next year. Let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Maybe you back with Hate Eternal if there's a European tour at one point,
Hopefully.
and you back with Marduk would be awesome to invite you again and have some barbecue. All right. So thank you so much for watching. I wish you an awesome day. Cheers from Vienna. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.